It looks like we're on Facebook Live now.
Yeah, I think yours goes, I'm looking at the process side of it, so I think you can see it quicker than me. But yeah, if it says, yep, we are live.
Okay. So we're ready to go then.
Yes.
All righty. Well, folks, I'd like to welcome you here this morning, December 15th, to our Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. These Zoom meetings are seem to be more normal than not, but hopefully after the first year we'll be able to get back to meeting in person. But I'm Kevin Jeffries, Chairman of the Oldham County Planning Commission. Somebody is getting some feedback. Could you all mute your screen, please? Mute your audio. I'm getting some kind of feedback.
There you go. I got it.
That sounds better. Okay. Before we get started here this morning with our first docketed item and our approval of minutes, let's join me in a pledge of allegiance, please, if you would. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. With that, I do have one announcement, or would like to welcome our newest commissioner from the city of LaGrange appointment, Sue Ann Jones. I think I saw you were on here a moment ago, so I'd like to be able to meet you in person, but hopefully we can do that after the first of next year. But welcome on board. If you have any questions, be sure to speak up, and we'll try to get those answered, Ms. Jones. So with that, let's go ahead and get the staff sworn in, if I could. Ms. Haichu.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. First thing here is our approval of minutes. And I believe everybody has a copy of those from our November 24th meeting. I'd like to get a motion and a second if I could, and then we'll
motion to approve.
Okay. All right. Got a motion to approve, and that was Ed Heffling.
Ed Heffling.
Okay. Do we have a second? Did I see Mr. Elder? Okay. Tom Elder seconds the approval of the minutes. Now, commissioners, are there any additions or corrections to our November 24th minutes? Any additions or corrections? Okay. I don't hear anybody or see any hands go up. So I'm sorry.
Laura Bonet has a hand.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
I'm always wondering whether or not we should correct grammar, but on page 4 of 15 on the 4th bullet, the word not, I think should probably be no. Found no mitigation was required.
Okay.
Now not. And then on page 9.
What page?
Page 9.
Okay.
First bullet. And I marked these a couple of days ago. So let's see. Their email response to staff was the belief we added. I guess that's okay. It just read funny. But under the 3rd bullet, the individual site plan will have to reflect the minimum and maximum. I think the second half be removed. The individual site plan will have to reflect the minimum.
Okay. We'll make a note of that.
That's all I got.
Okay. Any other additions or corrections? All right. Seeing or hearing none, we'll just do a voice vote on this. All those in favor of approving the minutes as corrected, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Okay. The minutes from our November 24th meeting have been approved. All right. I guess now we'll move into the first public hearing of our first docketed item, and I'll call on Ms. Haichu to read our first docketed item, please.
Okay. So we have docket PZ 20-018. Application has been filed by Todd Simmons for the approval of a preliminary subdivision plat for 11 lots on approximately 18.14 acres to be known as Saddle View Section 3. The property is located on Hidden Falls Drive, Prospect. The zoning is R2 residential and CO1 conservation residential.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll now move into the introduction of the application by staff and questions by the commission. We have 20 minutes for this portion of the hearing. Ms. Albee, I'm not sure whether it's you or Mr. McIntyre that will be making this presentation.
Mr. McIntyre is presenting today.
Okay, Mr. McIntyre, you go ahead, please.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this point, I'll start screen sharing. All right. Can everyone see the screen well?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So as Ms. Hutchu had mentioned, the application has been filed by Todd Simmons for approval of a preliminary subdivision plan for 11 lots on approximately 18 acres to be known as Saddle View Section 3. The property is located on the Hidden Falls Drive, and the zoning is R2 residential and CO1 conservation. Here we have an aerial, so you can see 329 running along the north side of the subject parcel with the Hidden Falls going down the side. Here we have just a pavement showing where the existing structures are along with the impervious surface. And here's our zoning map. As you can see, it's bisected by conservation along the top side and R2 for the majority. The case history, so the neighborhood meeting was held on October 15th. TRC was held 6 days later on the 21st of October. The APOs were sent out on December 1st, and the public notice appeared in the Oldham Era on the 30th of November. The site history: on June 28th, 2016, the Oldham County Planning Commission approved a preliminary subdivision plan totaling 10 lots on approximately 13.78 acres. It was docket PZ 16-019. The applicant is proposing a single-family residential subdivision consisting of 11 lots. The plan outlines one detention basin, and the homes will be served by septic systems. Lots 1 through 8 will be accessed from the proposed subdivision street, and lots 9 through 11 will be accessed from Hidden Falls Drive. And the plan meets all other zoning and subdivision regulations. So here we have the plan, and the green is your detention basin, which sits on lot 7. Here you can see existing section 1 in blue, existing section 2 in orange. That's just simply a reference showing you where the existing sections are and where the proposed section 3 will be. Here is the approved plan from 2016, approved preliminary subdivision plan. Again, section 1 is in blue, section 2 is in orange, and section 3 is going to be down here. Here we have pictures from the site visit. So this is what I anticipate to be the proposed entrance. So it'll be a proposed street A, as the plan would show. Here we have simply just across the street on the east side of existing Hidden Falls Drive. Here we are looking south out Hidden Falls towards existing section 1 and 2. Here we are looking north towards 329 rather, and it's really hard to see this hill on the in the far distance. That is on the north side of 329. So here's just a little bit further north up Hidden Falls Drive. Again, 329 is down here, and this is the entrance. Here we are looking at this is the corner of 329 and Hidden Falls, looking south. Here we are looking west down 329 towards Jefferson County. Here we're looking north towards Neville Mead, and east towards 329, or east on 329 towards Crestwood. The proposed binding elements would be: the approval applies only to the plan presented at the December 15th, 2020 Oldham County Planning Commission public hearing. There shall be no subdivision of any lot into a greater number of lots without review by the Oldham County Planning Commission. The proposed development must comply with the Oldham County Fire Hydrant Ordinance. The preliminary plan must comply with all established federal, state, and county ordinances and requirements at the time of approval, and no record plat will be approved until all standards are satisfied. Lastly, the cumulative phasing plan shall limit the number of building permits issued to 35 per year. And with that said, as you know, this is an 11 lot subdivision, so they could essentially get all 11 building permits within the year of recording the record plat. So be more than happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay, Mr. McIntyre, we'll come back to that here in just a minute. I want to see if Mr. Silliman, our county engineer, has any comments, and then Mr. Williams with the Oldham County Schools Board.
No, sir. We did a preliminary review of this for a TRC, and the designer has addressed most of the comments from the TRC review. There is an intermittent blue line stream that runs through the area that we would request a drainage easement for. However, most of the comments we have will be addressed during construction plan review.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Williams, do you have any comments from the school board?
No, I mean, the final rated capacity based on the campus for that would be 90.72. So yeah, they would qualify to get all 11 building permits in that first year for us.
Okay. All right. Thank you. With that, commissioners, do you have any questions on the introduction that has been made here on this docket? Any questions for staff? Okay. Don't hear any or see any hands go up here, so you might have to. Oh, I'm sorry.
Barry Hampton is raising his hand.
Who has? I'm sorry.
Barry Hampton.
Oh, Mr. Hampton. Okay, sorry. We might have to speak up because I can't see everybody on the screen at one time. So go ahead, Mr. Hampton.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Yes, sir.
Okay. I just want to let you know my sound is really garbled. I can make it out, but
you might try just turning the video off and just doing the sound, because sometimes the bandwidth, if you don't have adequate bandwidth, you'll get some garbled sound. You might try just turning your video off and just participating with just the audio.
That'd be better to call in.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for staff at this point? Any other questions? Okay.
Will Douglas is raising his hand.
Okay. Mr. Douglas, go ahead.
I just have a quick question for Jim, the engineer. The cul-de-sac meets our qualification for turning radius for buses.
Yeah, that I don't know what that would be. Might be for the applicant or whatever. Mr. Urban, do you have any comments?
Well, it does appear to meet the subdivision regulations.
Thank you. That's all I need to know.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for staff? Okay. Seeing none or hearing no comments, we'll now move into the presentation by the applicant or others and representative and others in support of the application. And you have 50 minutes. Who will be making the presentation?
Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to wave at you. It's Barry Baxter. I am the attorney for the applicant. 117 West Main Street in LaGrange is my address. I am present with the applicant, Todd Simmons, and also with our engineers. And if I could, I'd like to get the applicant and the engineer sworn at this point, please.
Yes, yeah, be good. Ms. Hyde-Shoe, swear them in, please, if you would.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. And Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'm going to get Mike Hill from the engineers from LD&D to share the screen and put our presentation up on the screen for everyone.
Okay, that'll be fine.
And actually, Mr. Chairman, at this point, I'm going to let Mr. Hill start and just, I don't think this is a complicated application that we filed. Obviously, our intention is to meet all the subdivision regulations and all the county regulations. There's no variances, no waivers. So I'm going to let Mike briefly go through, and it'll be a little repetitive because I think he's going to tell you all a lot of the same things that Tom has already told you, but I'm going to let him go through his portion of the presentation, and then I've got a couple slides I'd like to share.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mike Hill, Land Design and Development, 503 Washburn Avenue, Louisville, 40222. So and I'll go briefly through some of these slides because Tom mentioned them during his presentation, but just for context, this is an aerial image of our site, which is highlighted in red. It's a little over 18 acres off of Hidden Falls Drive, which is an existing county road, and it's very close to the intersection of 329. As you can see, our site is basically vacant land. It's going to be created from the parcel just north of it. So the buildings here and their access to 329, that's a remainder parcel, and our site is shown in red. You just go past our site on Hidden Falls Drive and you run into a under construction section of Saddle View Subdivision that Tom referenced, and then beyond that, Hidden Falls Subdivision in this area. This is the zoning map. Again, we're mostly R2 with some CO1. Our plan does comply with all the dimensional requirements within R2 and CO1. So we're not requesting any variances or waivers. This is our proposed preliminary plan, colored version. So we have 11 lots. They'll all be served by septic, so they're all over an acre in size. The two lots in the back are a little bit larger. This one's a little over 2 acres, and this one's over 3 acres. Again, the access to the subdivision will be off existing Hidden Falls Drive. Some of the lots will be accessed directly off of Hidden Falls Drive, while some will have access off new proposed Street A, which ends in a cul-de-sac. We will work with the county engineer on a couple things, or several things actually, during construction review. One will be location of driveway locations. For safety reasons, we'll work with them to determine which is the appropriate location of each of our driveway accesses for all the lots. And then stormwater management. As always, we'll work very closely with Mr. Silliman's office to create a stormwater management system that adequately handles our increased runoff. We are proposing within the street pipe and catch basin system that will lead to a detention basin in this green area here. It's actually on an open space lot by itself. It's not part of lot 7. But again, we'll work very closely with the county engineer to handle our stormwater. Again, it's 11 lots, a little over an acre, no variances, no waivers. This is an aerial view of the site plan showing the surrounding aerial photography.
Mike, I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the previous slide? And just, there was mention of the blue line stream,
Yes.
Mr. Silliman, and just to give the commissioners some idea about how the water flows through this property with the topography, can you give them just an indication of how that would work?
Sure. I'll try to use my cursor. Basically, in this area here, in this direction, there is a intermittent blue line stream located approximately here. So on either side of that, that's kind of the low spot. So on either side, we've got drainage that flows to the creek from this direction, and then to the creek from the other side. So the point is to allow that water that flows in this direction and the intermittent blue line stream now to continue flowing in that direction. We will utilize the detention basin to manage the rate of runoff that will head out in that direction. There are some lots, the few lots up in this location that flow in this direction toward Hidden Falls Drive and towards the remainder property here. So we will work with county engineer and our construction plan process to make sure that we don't increase the rate of runoff that that area currently experiences.
Thank you, Mike.
And then this is just an aerial view of the site plan and the vicinity around it. We can refer to that if needed during the meeting. And then this one just zooms out a little bit further, showing a little bit further down Hidden Falls Drive, and zooms out to so you can see some of the surrounding properties a little better. Do you want to go into?
Yeah, so show us the next slide if you would. So as indicated, this is an area where there has been some previous development further up Hidden Falls Drive. The builders that built on these lots were kind enough to provide me with just some examples of what they would be hoping to build in our new section. These were provided to me by Mason Construction, and these are just some drawings of some kind of proposed houses that, not necessarily this, but just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. These are large houses that would be situated here, consistent with the existing sections of Saddleview and the houses back further up Hidden Falls, and actually all up and down the area through Neville Mead, those kinds of things. So these are just some examples. They're not exactly what's going to be constructed, but this is the type of work that Mason does, and Mason is hoping to buy some of these lots, as well as Tim Menard Construction, both of which are high quality builders and would be building these types of houses on these lots. You can move ahead, please, Mike. We looked at the comprehensive plan, and I know it's always a question, is there compliance with the comprehensive plan? In reviewing it, I felt that LU-1-3 showed an area. It's actually subsection 1 is where we have existing infrastructure and services before we move into a less developed area of the county. So obviously there's an existing county road, Hidden Falls Drive, that runs through here. There are services in this area of the county. There's a number of subdivisions along through here. And so we're going to be utilizing the existing services. And Mike spoke about our efforts to preserve the Blue Line Stream and to basically utilize the topography as an objective E-2-2. Mike, if you go to the next one. Mr. Simmons actually was on the committee that developed the Brownsboro master plan, so he is very cognizant of that. And while I may have been reaching a little bit, I'm trying to pay some respect to the fact that this is near, although not as close to the village center as some of the other developments. And these are some elements of the Brownsboro master plan that we feel are being complied with. And E2 and LU-2, those are listed there. Next, please, Mike. So we would ask that you all approve the revised preliminary plan because of the compliance with the sections I just cited. And as indicated by Mr. McIntyre when he made his presentation, we comply with all other zoning and subdivision regulations. And in light of that, we would ask for your approval. I would ask Mike to go back to one of the aerials that there was just something I wanted to comment about. In this particular aerial, if you look at our proposed development, and it may be easier to see in a different one, but the existing house for this property is seen kind of in the triangle area. This property is owned by Henry Craig. Ms. Craig has given Mr. Simmons the option to purchase it subject to your all's approval. And she will be retaining her home and the other land that this is going to be carved off of. In addition, this aerial, I think, is dated a little bit. You see some open construction, and I believe that the houses that are depicted there are all completed at this time. So while it looks like they're under construction, this may go back a couple of years, and those houses are actually done at this point. Mr. Simmons, I think all the houses on the prior intersections, correct?
There's already one vacant lot that's pending construction.
Okay, so we've got one vacant lot back there, but everything else in the prior sections. And there was a concern raised when we had our neighborhood meeting, and it's something we will address with staff as we get a little further along. There's a concern raised about the name. So there's been some confusion about the name. At one point, this was Saddle View Section 3. At another point, I think it's listed on there as Hidden Falls Subdivision. We will work with the neighbors and with staff to make sure that whatever name we choose does not interfere with anything that they've got going on back there. Our understanding was there were some discussions between the folks in Saddle View and the other neighborhood about what they were going to do about their HOA. And if in any way we're going to interfere with that, we certainly don't want to do that. So that's something that we understood didn't need to be formally addressed and finally addressed until we get the record plat. But we'll do whatever we need to do. And Mr. Chairman, with that, I think that's going to conclude our presentation. Obviously, we'll answer any questions of staff or the public that there may be.
Sure. Yeah, we'll get to that here in just a little bit, Mr. Baxter. But before we move into the next section, is there anyone that would like to speak, anyone else that would like to speak in support of this application? Anyone else that would like to speak in support of? Okay. Seeing no hands or hearing no one, we'll now move into testimony and questions by those opposing the application. Is there anyone on here that has questions or would like to testify about this application, opposing this application? Okay, I don't.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I would like to. I have some questions. This is Craig Stein. I'm on the Hidden Falls Residents Association Board as a secretary.
Okay, let's get you sworn in first before we start here. Ms. Hashu.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
So I have several questions regarding the development as far as the matching the initial presentation that Mr. Simmons was granted in 2016, mainly regarding preservation of existing easement horse fence coming up the Hidden Falls Drive. I don't see that on the submittal, but I'm looking at what the meeting minutes from that 2016 meeting stated, and I see things like that on the submittal.
Okay, well, just go ahead and make your concerns and your questions, and then if we move through the next portion of the hearing, then we'll let Mr. Baxter and the applicant then respond to those questions.
So there are several issues and concerns that we have, mainly with the this new development encroaching closer to Highway 329. That is a pretty busy, narrow entrance. There is an adjacent driveway on the north side of Highway 329. Almost directly across the street is the entrance to Nevillemead, and that gets to be a very busy intersection. Coming as soon as you turn in that entrance to Hidden Falls, there is a fairly steep hill, and we're talking now about construction vehicles being potentially placed right in there. And we've dealt with this when we were seeing the development higher up the hill, but now we're on a much steeper section of the Hidden Falls Drive, and we're concerned about like school buses being able to safely turn in without meeting a large vehicle or a trailer that's offloading some construction equipment. So there are some concerns about that. Obviously, there's also some concerns about previous agreements for the initial development of Saddle View Sections 1 and 2 not being honored, such as sharing of expenses for landscaping and fencing and the like. And finally, as far as I know, there are still some outstanding things for addressing the existing spring and the construction of a spring house that was promise for the initial development that, to my knowledge, has still not been delivered.
Okay. Does that complete your testimony and questions? Mr.
Yes,
Stein?
it does.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone else on the Zoom call or Zoom meeting that has testimony or questions opposing this application? Anyone else? Okay. I don't see any hands or hear anything. So, all right. We will then.
Chairman, there's
Also,
on chat, there's not a question. But there is actually, Karen Osborne has said respectfully request that Hidden Falls name be removed from the subdivision plan. I don't know if she's on this, so wants to make a comment or not.
okay. Osborne, are you on the call here?
This is Karen Osborne,
Yes,
1315 Spring Hollow Court.
Let me, before you start, let me get you sworn in, please. Ms. Haichu?
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I know it's been addressed by Mr. Baxter's office that the Hidden Falls will be removed from the plat map. I'm already getting calls wanting our CCRs because it's been represented apparently to some different areas that it will be a part of Hidden Falls, and that's obviously not the case. I think our biggest concern being that we have 38, 39 households back up in Hidden Falls, in addition to the 10 homes in Saddleview phases 1 and 2, is just getting everyone in and out of the neighborhood safely. Unfortunately, topography, we can't do anything about the hill. I know I have spoken with Mr. Simmons, and a suggestion on our part, and I think he was agreeable to this, but I would certainly like to have it go on record, is when those lots do start to develop that will have access directly off of Hidden Falls Drive, if there would be some way to safely go ahead and open up those lots so that construction, all contractors, will be off of Hidden Falls Drive with their vehicles. Now, of course, when large equipment is moving in, we realize that a trailer and so forth will have to stay on Hidden Falls Drive in order to unload. But we do request that perhaps those large trailers, and I'm talking semi-large trailers, not be left on that street. The last thing any of us, including I'm sure Mr. Simmons, want to happen is an accident involving the residents and or school buses.
Okay.
That's all I had.
Okay, Ms. Osborne, thank you. All right, anyone else have testimony or questions opposing the application? Anyone else? I want to run through this or whatever. We still have 43 minutes on the time for the testimony and questions opposing. So if there's anyone else that has any questions, either speak up or let me see your hand and then we'll let you speak. Okay, I don't see anybody else or hear anybody else speaking up here. We will now move into the questioning of the applicant and those opposing the application by the commission. And commissioners, we have 30 minutes for this portion of the hearing. Does any commissioners have questions that we would like to ask? Mr. Douglas, I see your hand.
Yes. My question will be to the applicant or to staff, either one, but anyway, the applicant can probably answer. Is this a revised preliminary subdivision plan or just a, because I noticed on 2016, I noticed on your data or your information, it says a revised preliminary subdivision plan, and also on the application, I guess it was stated that. So I guess to bring up the questions, we don't have the staff, at least I don't have in front of me, what the 2016 finding elements would have been in the original revised preliminary plan.
Mr. Chairman, I'll answer that. You know, it was confusing a little bit in Tom's presentation. Saddle View sections 1 and 2 were on a completely different piece of property further up Hidden Falls Drive. This is a brand new subdivision plan. It is not revised.
Okay, great. And my next question to the applicant would be, when it comes to the Blue Line stream, I understand the Oldham County Health Department has said that they would do additional residential permits for a septic tank. Is there any mitigating factors that needs to be addressed because you're so close in those lots on those Blue Line streams? What mitigating factors would you take to ensure no improper drainage going into those streams? That would be for the applicant, I guess.
Mr. Baxter?
Mr. Douglas, I'm not sure I understand your question. I mean, obviously, we have to comply with all the federal and state and county regulations that relate to that. And if the health department has a concern about something, we have to comply with their regulations as well. And obviously, that's one of the binding elements that will comply with all of those things. So I'm not sure how we answer that beyond saying that we're legally obligated to do those things, and we will comply with the law.
That's all I needed to know, Mr. Baxter.
All right, Ms. Hagan, I see your hand up.
For the applicant, could you just clarify the curb cuts off of Hidden Falls and 329? What are the access points into the subdivision?
So there's no access, Ms. Hagan, Commissioner Hagan, onto Highway 329. Hidden Falls Drive is a existing county road. And so there would be curb cuts for lots 9, 10, and 11 into Hidden Falls Drive. And then there's a new road proposed, and that road would also obviously have a curb cut back for the new road with access for lots 1 and 8 coming off of the new road.
Thank you.
All right, any additional questions from the commissioners to the applicant or the opposition or the folks that were opposed? Oh, yes, Mr. Falvey.
Yes, and I think this question's for Tom. We received an email yesterday afternoon, and it was comments from the HOA from Saddlebrook. Is that right? Saying they're basically in compliance with everything that's going on.
That would be for the next docket.
Oh, I was thinking it was this docket. Okay, my apologies.
Yeah, it's for the reserve at L'Esprit.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. I have one quick question for Mr. Baxter, I guess, or might be for Mr. Hill with LD&D. What are the slopes there on the lots that are adjacent to Hidden Falls Drive? What kind of slopes are we looking at? Look, those contour lines look like they're pretty close together.
Mr. Chairman, they're looking at the plan right this second.
Okay.
It's an engineer.
All right.
We'll get you a quick number here, Mr. Jeffries.
Okay. All right, while we're doing that, is there anyone else, any other commissioners that have questions for either the, Mr. Urban, I see your hand up.
Yeah, that I think if I got it correct, it's Mr. Stein, I think, Craig, from the Hidden Falls HOA. I wasn't sure what the easements are that he was talking about on Hidden Falls Drive.
Mr. Stein?
Yes, so there on either side of Hidden Falls Drive, there are electrical, water, and gas, as well as telecommunications easements, which are obviously shared. But the previous Saddle View subdivision plans had stated that they would maintain the fencing. There's a 4-board horse fence on those that's separating those easements from the lots themselves.
Okay.
And we are I wanted to get an answer from the applicant if those were going to be preserved.
Yeah, they'll have time to do that here in the rebuttal portion of the hearing.
That was my question though, so.
Yeah, true.
Thank you.
All right.
One more.
Okay, Mr. Doug, before I get to you, looks like they might have the answer on the contours from LD&D.
Yes. Yeah, we did a quick measurement on those front 2 or 3 lots there. There's about a, about a 15 to 20% slope. Is about as steep as it gets up in the front in that area.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Douglas?
Yeah, that would be my follow-up. That's what I was waiting for, but I guess my question would be to the applicant and to the county engineer. When it comes to that slope, the drainage off of that for the stormwater runoff, to try to mitigate that from happening. Since it's on a county road, will there be any factors that need to be done to avoid water runoff onto the highway from those lots or from the subdivision down the Hidden Falls onto Highway 329? Because I see there is a right of way, but are we looking at the applicant to assist the county on trying to mitigate that, or is the county taking that responsibility on their own?
Well, Mr. Hill with LD&D stated that he'd work with our office specifically on those 3 lots. They currently show a detention basin on lot 7 further in at the back of the cul-de-sac, but that they would address those 3 lots in the post-construction runoff versus the pre-construction runoff during construction plan submittal. So
Okay.
I've made a note on my plan here that we'll continue to work with them on that.
Does that mean deepening that ditch or down Hidden Falls? Is that what you're getting at?
Well, I think it could mean various things, whether it's a small detention feature or others. We'll just need to work with the designers.
Okay, that satisfies me. Thanks.
Would you agree, Mike?
Yes, definitely. We certainly will be working with your office as we get into the engineering phase of the project to determine exactly what that will look like.
Okay. Any additional questions from the commissioners to the applicant or the folks testifying in opposition? Any other questions? Okay, I don't see or hear anyone else speaking up. So at this point in the hearing, we'll move into the rebuttal evidence and cross-examination by the applicant. Mr. Baxter, I know there were some questions from the opposition. If you would like to, you or the LD&D would like to address those that were brought up earlier in the hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to let Mr. Simmons address some of the concerns that got raised, and so I'll turn the floor over to him, please.
Okay.
Good morning, commissioners. And I'm answering some of Craig Stein's questions that he had. As far as the fence goes, yes, I do plan, and I have no problem putting that in binding elements that we will preserve the horse fence that runs up along the front property lines of the homes abutting Hidden Falls Drive. So that's a plan, and I have no problem putting that in there. As far as the spring house goes, the spring house was built some time ago, and it is constructed and completed. And as far as we did agree to share some of the maintenance costs of the entrance, the signature entrance, which I'm collecting the HOA dues right now, and you'll be made whole on that. I've got I called and requested a bill from you guys, which you guys sent me, and you will be getting that as soon as they send the HOA sends the dues in. So.
And that's for Saddle View 1 and 2.
1 and 2, yeah, they're sending their 2019 dues in now, which will go to satisfy the bill with you.
Thank you.
And there was a question raised about the construction vehicles.
Sorry, yeah, and I have no problem putting in, and I discussed with Karen about putting requiring an area for parking on those 3 lots. That's lot number 9, 10, and 11. That's on the hillside. We don't mind putting in that they have to establish a driveway and a parking area to try to keep the vehicles off that road as much as possible. And we'll put that in as well. I don't mind that.
Anything else, Mr. Baxter?
And I'm not sure what the confusion, Ms. Osborne mentioned some confusion with people asking for their deed restrictions. I don't know who would be asking, but there will be a separate set of restrictions that apply to this section that don't have any application of Hidden Falls or Saddle View. So there'll be separate restrictions for this section. So if that's happening, Ms. Osborne could kindly direct those people to contact Mr. Simmons, because he's the one that would have restrictions for this new section, and we'll certainly address the name issue that's been raised.
All right, anything else on rebuttal or cross-examination?
This is Mr. Stein again. I have another.
Well, Mr. Stein, you will have an opportunity here in just a moment for your rebuttal and cross.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Baxter or do you all have anything else to add?
No, sir. I don't think we have anything else.
Okay. We will now move into then the rebuttal evidence and cross-examination by the opposition. Mr. Stein, I think you were speaking and you have 10 minutes here.
Yes. So is it safe to assume that the certificate, a land use restriction for the new section will mirror the previous sections?
Mr. Baxter.
The CCRs?
You've got me confused, Mr. Stein. I apologize. Are you talking about the deed restrictions?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Stein?
That is all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Osborne, or you have any questions or rebuttal at this point?
I guess my question would be, there seemed to be confusion when Saddle View sections 1 and 2 were constructed, that I believe it's safe to assume that all of the homeowners assumed that they would be part of the Hidden Falls amenities, meaning the trail system and so forth. I'm not representing that Mr. Simmons stated that to the purchasers, but I do believe there was direct confusion with the builders assuming that those homes were part of Hidden Falls. And in order to be good neighbors, we've allowed access, but I don't believe that Hidden Falls HOA is going to continue access to our amenities, which we maintain until Saddle View 1 and 2 joins the HOA, which is the intention. But this new phase, I think it needs to be very clear with the builders that it is not a part of Hidden Falls. And that's it.
All right. Anyone have any response to that statement?
I would respond to that. I never ever made any representation that it was part, and I've made it very clear to the builders that are looking at it now that it's not. So I didn't sell the lots directly to the homeowners on the first phase. So I don't know if that was represented by the builders. I don't know, but I've made it very clear it's not. So.
And you will continue to
do that, yeah.
Okay. Anyone else have any rebuttal or cross-examination as far as from the opposition? Anything else? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I want to make a point here. The recent discussion about joining the HOA, as far as our commission goes, is separate from any decision we make. Those are, they can either choose to join HOAs or abide by deed restrictions as they please or as they work out. But that's not our, something for our commission to consider.
Okay, thank
I
you.
just
for
want
that.
to make sure that,
Yeah,
that everybody's clear on that. Mhm.
Yeah, clarification. Thank you. All right, any other rebuttal evidence or cross-examination by the opposition before we move on? Okay, seeing none, hearing none. We'll now move into the final statement of the opposition, and that you have 5 minutes. Mr. Stein or Ms. Osborne, do you have any final statements you would like to make?
No, just to, again, our main concern is the safety of the residents and all folks who are coming in and out of the neighborhood during that construction phase. So, Karen, I don't know if you have anything else you would like to add, but that's all I have.
Okay.
I do not. In response to Mr. Urban, I totally agree with his statement is that the HOAs are not involved in this. But what I do, I guess what I'm asking for clarity is how do we know when phases 1 and 2 are cleared with the county, meaning everything has been completed in before something, a new addition of 11 homes goes on?
Okay.
Well,
you want to respond to that, or we're kind of, this is final statement of the opposition. So
I'm sorry if that is off subject for this. I apologize. I'm not trying to.
Sure.
I'm just looking for clarity.
Okay. Mr. Urban, anything you want to add to that?
It's a simple answer, and Jim Silliman can confirm this. For Saddleview sections 1 and 2, there's a request for a bond release, and we do inspections and make sure that things are in order before we go ahead and release that bond.
Thank you.
It has not been done yet, though.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
I concur.
Okay, Mr. Solomon, thank you. Anything else as far as final statement from the opposition? All right, hearing none, seeing no hands go up. Mr. Baxter, we're now down to final statement of the applicant, and you also have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, this morning. We have presented a 11 lot subdivision that will obviously access Hidden Falls Drive and a new road that we are proposing. As indicated by staff, our proposed plan meets all the applicable regulations. There are no variances or waivers being requested. It complies with your all's regulations, and obviously we have the binding elements that were proposed by Mr. McIntyre in his plan, which we accept. And we have indicated other things that we are willing to do in order to satisfy the neighbors, including indicating that once the curb cuts are done on lots 9 through 11 and the new road, that construction vehicles would be moved out of the roadway onto those lots. We further have indicated that we will, I apologize, I lost my train of thought there, Mr. Chairman. From our perspective, though, we have complied with the regulations, and we would ask for approval, please, this morning.
All right, does that complete your final statement then, sir?
It does.
Okay, with that, we will now move into the portion of the hearing where we will be making a decision here. And before we do that, I would like to call on Mr. Urban and Mr. Combs with the County Attorney's Office to kind of outline what's being requested under docket PZ 20018. Mr. Urban?
Sure. This is a request for a preliminary subdivision plan approval. On page 2 in your staff report, there are sample motions either for approval or denial. I want to remind everybody, regardless of the motion, that you need to fill in the blanks, whether it complies with the comprehensive plan, subdivision regulations, zoning ordinance. There are, I think, 7 binding elements, the 5 that were in the staff report, and I'll read them out loud. The first one is the approval applies only to the plan presented at the December 15, 2020 Oldham County Planning Commission public hearing. Number 2 is there shall be no subdivision of any lot into a greater number of lots without review by the Oldham County Planning Commission. Number 3, the proposed development must comply with the Oldham County Fire Hydrant Ordinance. Number 4 is the preliminary plan must comply with all established federal, state, and county ordinances and requirements at the time of approval, and no record plat will be approved until all standards are satisfied. Number 5 is the cumulative phasing plan shall limit the number of building permits issued to 35 per year. Number 6, and this is added, so if the applicant would listen, and I think they agree, construction vehicles and crews shall refrain from parking on Hidden Falls Drive. Obviously, there's initially there may have to be some parking just to get construction entrances put in. And then number 7 is a 4-board fence on Hidden Falls Drive shall be preserved and or installed once construction is completed.
Okay. Mr. Baxter, do you agree with those last, especially those last 2 binding elements?
Mr. Chairman, we do, obviously subject to the need to encroach, not only with the curb cuts, but also the fence initially to be able to access those properties.
Okay.
Correct.
Anything else, sir?
No, thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Urban, are you, that pretty much covers your present, I mean, as far as what you're asking the commission here? Or what
Yes.
you're advising the commission? Okay. All right. Mr. Combs, anything you need to add before we move for a motion?
Yes, there's a typographical error, looks like, on the motion itself, and the motion currently on page 2 says motion to approve the revised preliminary plan. You need to eliminate revised.
Yeah, good catch. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right, commissioners, now it's down to our decision here, and the chair would now entertain a motion on docket PZ 20018, which is approval of a preliminary subdivision plan for 11 lots. So commissioners, do you have a motion that you're willing to move forward? Mr. Falvey?
Yes, I'd like to make the motion to approve the preliminary plan as outlined in PZ 20-018. It complies with the objectives of the comprehensive plan, including LU-2, LU-1-3, and E-2-2. I'd like to incorporate all 7 binding elements as read by Jim Urban earlier.
Okay. Mr. Combs, is that an adequate motion, sir?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. I missed who seconded that?
Ed Halfling.
Okay, Ed Halfling seconds. All right, now, is there any discussion on the motion to approve docket PZ 20018, which is approval of a preliminary subdivision plan?
Ms. Hagan's raising her hand.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Ms. Hagan.
I just needed one clarification on binding element number 6. For the construction access or the construction parking area on 9, 10, and 11. How is that being phased as far as depending on what lots are developed first? If 9, 10, and 11 were to be built on, where would that push the parking and access to?
Well, I didn't put 9, 10, and 11 specifically because, of course, they're also going to build a subdivision street. I just said construction vehicles and crews shall refrain from parking on Hidden Falls Drive, period. Now, we understand that to get a construction entrance or even a driveway initially, they may have to park to offload equipment because there's no other way to do it. But understanding that once they have at least cut in a construction road or driveways, all equipment needs to stay off of Hidden Falls Drive.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions on the motion to approve? Any other discussion or questions? Okay. I don't see any hands go up or hear any questions. So at this point, I will call on Ms. Hachu for the vote on the motion to approve on docket PZ 20018. And this will be a motion to approve.
Ms. Bonet?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
She's raising her hand, yes.
Okay. Mr. Douglas?
Yes.
Mr. Elder?
Yes.
Mr. Falvey?
Yes.
Mr. Finney?
Yes.
Mr. Halfling,
Yes.
Ms. Hagan,
Yes.
Mr. Hampton,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Klingenfuss,
Yes.
Ms. Nasser,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
He's thumbs up, yes. It should have passed on a vote to 14-1, or 14-0, I'm sorry.
14-0, right.
All right. The docket PZ 20018, approval of a preliminary subdivision plan known as Saddle View Section 3 has been approved on a vote of 14-0. So with that, commissioners, we'll take a short recess here. We've got today fiscal court meets this afternoon, I think at 2 o'clock. So we have to be done before then. So let's take about a 5 to 8 minute recess here, and then we'll reset and get ready for our next docketed item. So with that, we'll take a short recess.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.